outfits on, walking around with all type of shits. Go. Go, brother. Go. Go, brother. Go. Go, brother. Go. Go, brother. Go.
Videos posted on Duncan's social media accounts show him dancing with a gun and makes some strange statements.
Because look at me, I'm God. I'm not dumb, bro. I'm God, bro.
This is 23-year-old Eddie Darren Duncan, a Minneapolis man who had just been released from jail hours earlier before returning to a family home and opening fire on his two cousins.
I look to my right, which is what Kwame room at. I noticed a Kwame Xavier on the floor with a lot of blood, and I called my mom. I came back downstairs. I'm like, Mom, please get here now. They killed my brothers.
Just after 4:30 p.m. on February 23, 2026, frantic 911 calls led police to a house on the 4200 block of Irving Avenue North in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where officers discovered two cousins inside the home suffering from gunshot wounds. The victims were 23-year-old Akwame Stewart and 14-year-old Xavier Barnett, both shot inside the same house where several family members had been gathered.
And he just been traumatized and so shocked, like it doesn't seem real, like it hurts. It's gonna be a long journey.
Just hours before that shooting, Eddie had walked out of the Hennepin County Jail after posting $35,000 bail tied to an earlier police pursuit and weapons case. As investigators began piecing together what happened inside the house, they would realize that the violence did not end there. Less than an hour later, officers in Brooklyn Center encountered the same suspect in a business parking lot on the 5600 block of Brooklyn Boulevard, where he opened fire at police, striking a marked squad car before officers returned fire. But to understand how a man who had just been released from jail ended up killing two members of his own family and then confronting police minutes later, we have to go back to the very beginning. This is the story of Eddie Darren Duncan and his two cousins.
I look to my right, which is what Kwame room at. I noticed a Kwame Xavier on the floor with a lot of blood, and I called my mom. I came back downstairs. I'm like, Mom, please get here now. They killed my brothers.
Eddie Darren Duncan was born on April 1, 2002. He was 23 years old. He grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, surrounded by extended family members who lived in the same neighborhoods across North Minneapolis. Much of his daily life happened within that same circle of relatives, cousins, and familiar streets. There were no public records showing a long history of violent offenses connected to his name during his early adult years. People who knew him described someone who spent most of his time around family and friends, moving between houses and neighborhoods where many of his relatives also lived. His background did not immediately place him in the category of someone known for violent crimes. There were no reports of serious assaults or shootings connected to him in earlier years. Instead, the details that surfaced about his life showed a young man who was still trying to figure out what direction he wanted to take. Like many people his age, he spent large parts of his day online, posting videos, sharing opinions, and interacting with people through social media.
Nigga thought a 7-year march was that quick? Was that easy with one state? Come on, dude. Eddie, bro. Eddie. Eat it. Goes. One state. All with you at once. All stop with you at once. Y'all niggas is dumb, bro. Can't be God, bro. Oh my God, bro. I'm worthy. I'm telling you, I'm worthy of being here.
But even though his life seemed ordinary on the surface, much of his identity was being built online. Eddie spent a significant amount of time on Facebook. It became the place where he expressed himself, where he talked about his frustrations, and where he tried to build a public persona.
This is what power look like, bro. Y'all niggas are straight goofy. I'm at the crib in all black. Ghost out. Get with me.
On that platform, he often referred to himself by the name Ebka. He described himself as an aspiring rapper and shared short videos of himself performing drill-style rap.
Say, look at the universe getting better. Let nigga, that's me because I put on my sweater. Go. 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 I told you every time I rap, even this a freestyle, and nigga get some of this. I found a 50 on the hip. Catch me get hit by the Starburst. That bitch hit his ass. That bitch go for it. That hit his ass. That go first. Go, go. Hey, y'all ain't think God was a regular and regular as
The clips usually showed him rapping into the camera while standing in rooms, hallways, or outside buildings. There was no record of a professional music career connected to his name. He had no known contract with a label, no charting songs, and no public performances tied to a formal music career. But that did not stop him from presenting himself as a rapper. His social media accounts became the stage where he built that image. He spoke about music, posted lyrics, and used the platform to project confidence and power. But that online image did not exist in isolation. Through his posts, Eddie also revealed personal struggles. In several statements, he admitted that he had difficulty reading. He said people laughed at him for it. He wrote about feeling disrespected by people around him. Some posts suggested that he believed certain family members mocked him or talked about him behind his back. At times, he appeared defensive. At other times, he responded with anger. Still, those posts were only one part of his online presence. Many of his videos followed the style common in drill rap culture. They included aggressive language, threats directed at unnamed people, and statements about being untouchable. In several clips, he declared that no one could stop him. He spoke about being in control of his surroundings and warned others not to challenge him. The tone of those posts often shifted between frustration and bravado, creating an online persona that mixed vulnerability with confrontation. But despite those posts, his name was not widely known outside the circles that followed him online, and for a while, his life continued without major legal consequences. But then, something happened that changed the situation. In May of 2025, Eddie became involved in an incident with police in Robbinsdale, Minnesota.
Duncan had been in jail after he was picked up on a warrant that stemmed from an incident in May involving Robbinsdale police. Dashcam video shows Duncan was pulled over for speeding and running a red light. But a short time later, he hit the gas, taking police on a pursuit.
Officers attempted to stop him after observing him speeding and running a red light. At first, he pulled his vehicle over. The stop appeared routine at the beginning, but within moments, he accelerated and drove away from the officers. The situation quickly turned into a high-speed pursuit. Eddie drove away at speeds reaching close to 90 miles per hour, significantly above the speed limit for that area.
Eventually, Duncan crashed and rolled his car, but he crawled out of it and then ran from the scene and wasn't found.
During the chase, he lost control and crashed the vehicle. After the crash, he ran away from the scene on foot before officers could take him into custody. Inside the abandoned vehicle, police discovered several items.
Inside his car, though, police pulled out a Glock with an auto sear that makes it fire like a machine. An extended magazine was also found with 29 rounds, and there was one in the chamber.
They found Eddie's cell phone inside the car. They also located a Glock handgun. That firearm had been modified with an auto sear, a small device sometimes referred to as a switch. The modification allows a handgun to fire automatically instead of one shot at a time. Along with that weapon, officers found an extended magazine capable of holding nearly 30 rounds. Eddie was not captured immediately after the crash, but the investigation did not end there. Authorities later moved forward with charges connected to that incident. In January of 2026, prosecutors formally indicted Eddie for the events tied to the high-speed chase and the firearm discovered in the vehicle. That indictment placed him in the legal system and created an active case that required him to appear in court. But before he could be taken into custody, another development appeared. On February 2, 2026, a wanted poster began circulating online with Eddie's face on it. The notice showed that law enforcement was searching for him in connection with the charges tied to the Robbinsdale incident. The poster included his name and photograph and asked for information about his whereabouts. And that poster quickly spread across social media. But instead of hiding from it, Eddie reacted to it directly. Soon enough, the wanted poster appeared on his own Facebook page. He reposted the same image of himself that police were using to locate him. In several posts, he mocked the situation. He wrote messages directed toward police and others who were following the case. The tone of those posts suggested he was not concerned about the warrant that had been issued for his arrest. But that online activity did not slow down. If anything, it became more intense. On February 15, 2026, Eddie spent much of the day posting repeatedly on Facebook. The number of posts grew quickly throughout the day. By the end of the day, he had made close to 90 separate posts. Some of those posts were simple text messages. Others included videos where he spoke directly into the camera.
So, I'm gonna give you some frequencies of truth. That's how I didn't teach you, because he 4, 5, however many. I've been learning. I know it all. I know it all, man. Like I said, I know it all. Don't know more than me. You're smart as out. Get your family free, baby. Hey, I took the richest one, and I was still finna die. On B.
In several of those videos, Eddie appeared agitated. He spoke rapidly and jumped from one topic to another. He accused people around him of mocking him. He claimed family members were talking about him behind his back.
Got up on me acting like I did something. Y'all need some pictures on my mama. We up there. Go. Y'all over with. Beef.
He mentioned again that people laughed at him for not knowing how to read. At other moments, his tone shifted dramatically. He declared that he was powerful. He repeatedly said that he was God.
They are trying to get the God in Minneapolis. Come get them.
He challenged people to confront him. He told viewers to send their location if they wanted to fight him.
Drop your low. Whoever wanted, drop your low. I'll pull up. You know all back.
In one live video, he invited anyone who disagreed with him to meet him outside so they could settle their issues directly. Those statements were not isolated. They appeared again and again throughout the day. Some posts suggested that he had not slept in several days. He wrote messages indicating he had been awake for 4 days without rest. In other posts, he spoke about needing to smoke to calm down. The mix of sleeplessness, anger, and aggressive language made the situation appear increasingly unstable. Around that time, records also showed that Eddie had previously been diagnosed with schizophrenia. The condition can affect how a person interprets reality and may involve paranoia, confusion, or believing things that are not actually happening. The posts he was making that day, the accusations toward relatives, the rapid shifts in tone, and the statements about being God were happening in the middle of that mental health background. And as the posts continued, they also revealed something else. Eddie was still sharing the wanted poster connected to his case. More than 10 of the posts that day included the same image police were using to search for him. Instead of avoiding it, he kept bringing attention to it. Each time he reposted it, he added comments challenging the people looking for him. But the posts did more than just mock the warrant. They also included direct accusations toward relatives. In several messages, Eddie wrote that he did not trust members of his own family. He suggested they had hurt him in the past. He claimed they laughed at him and made his life harder. Some of the statements included specific names of relatives he believed were responsible for mocking him. Unbeknownst to anyone, this was a foreshadowing to him spiraling into thinking that they had something to do with him eventually being arrested. Those accusations appeared alongside threats directed at other people.
Yeah, I was tough, nigga, tough as shit. You weren't able to stop me as a kid. You ain't gonna stop me at 23 in my prime, nigga. I told y'all I'm rich, nigga, and no nigga stopping shit. You get up on me, I'm doing your ass bad. This is my world, nigga.
The tone of the posts shifted between anger, confusion, and confrontation. In some moments, he appeared to be arguing with viewers who joined his live broadcasts. At other times, he spoke alone, delivering long statements into the camera. But that day of posts did not continue indefinitely. Later that same evening, the situation changed. Law enforcement officers located Eddie and took him into custody on the warrant connected to the Robbinsdale incident. The online activity stopped when he was arrested. He was transported to the Hennepin County Jail. There, he remained in custody while the court processed the charges tied to the high-speed chase and the firearm discovered in his vehicle. But the legal process moved quickly. Because Eddie did not have a documented violent criminal history on record at that time, the court allowed him to post bail while awaiting further court proceedings. Prosecutors requested a high bail amount, citing concerns about public safety. The court approved a bond set at $35,000. And on the afternoon of February 23, 2026, everything changed. That afternoon, Eddie Darren Duncan walked out of the Hennepin County Jail after his $35,000 bail was posted. He left custody and returned to normal movement in the city, with no escort and no restrictions that physically kept him from going where he wanted. But then, something changed. After his release, Eddie went straight back to North Minneapolis. He headed to a home on the 4200 block of Irving Avenue North, Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was a house where his relatives were. It was not an unfamiliar address to him. It was part of the same family circle he had been talking about online. Inside the home, family members were present. A grandmother was there, along with grandchildren. The house was occupied by relatives who expected a normal day, not a confrontation. Eddie walked in and moved through the home like he knew exactly where to go and who would be there. Unbeknownst to the relatives, Eddie had already made up his mind that there are two people in the household had something to do with the police catching him, and that's when the situation escalated. He did not come in and start talking to everyone. He did not sit down and calm down. He moved with focus. Out of the relatives inside the home, he directed his attention toward two people in particular, his cousins. Minutes passed inside that house with Eddie moving through the rooms and closing distance. Family members were still inside, close enough that they would hear what happened next, but not in a position to stop it once it started. But that was only the beginning. A gun was produced inside the house. The distance between Eddie and the two cousins was close enough for an immediate attack. The moment was fast and direct, with no long buildup of conversation described. Then, the shooting happened. Eddie raised the handgun and fired at his cousins. The first shots struck 23-year-old Kwame Stewart. The distance between them was close, and the gunfire happened inside the home where family members were still present in nearby rooms. The moment was quick and direct, but he was not done. Eddie turned the gun toward 14-year-old Xavier Barnett, who was also inside the house. He fired again. The gunshots echoed through the residence, and people inside the home reacted immediately as the two cousins fell from the gunfire. And within seconds, everything shifted. Family members rushed toward the victims, while others ran for phones to call for help. The shooting had happened quickly, leaving people inside the house trying to understand what had just occurred. But Eddie did not stay inside the home. After firing the shots, he moved out of the house and left the scene. By the time emergency calls reached police and officers were dispatched to the address, Eddie was already gone. When officers arrived at the residence on Irving Avenue North, they found both victims inside the home suffering from gunshot wounds. Emergency responders began working inside the house, but both cousins had already died from the injuries. And while officers secured the scene and began processing what had happened inside the home, the situation continued moving somewhere else.
An absolutely heartbroken family is sharing their grief and pain after two of their loved ones were killed on Monday by a family member. They say 14-year-old Xavier Barnett and 23-year-old Kwame Stewart were shot by their cousin, Eddie Duncan. Fox 9's Karen Scullin joining us now with this heartbreaking story. Karen?
Yeah, this family has already endured so much with the homicide of a family member a couple of years ago. And now that victim's two brothers are shot and killed, leaving their loved ones in just unimaginable pain.
I noticed my niece and my nephews upstairs and my grandma, and she was like, I think he killed my baby.
Deasia Freeman got to her mom's house Monday afternoon and walked into an absolute nightmare. With her young niece and nephews hiding in a closet, she made a tragic discovery.
Then once I look to my right, which is what Kwame room at, I noticed a Kwame Xavier on the floor with a lot of blood, and I called my mom. I came back downstairs. I'm like, Mom, please get here now. They killed my brothers.
Deasia is the only girl and the oldest of 8 siblings, 3 of whom were murdered. One 2 years ago, the other 2 on Monday. 14-year-old Xavier Barnett and 23-year-old Kwame Stewart were killed by their cousin who had just been released from jail.
I still wake up fighting and seeing this picture in my head of me knowing my brother getting shot in front of me, and then me coming home seeing my 2 brothers on the floor and just looking like they was asleep. They didn't even look like they was gone. They just looked like they was asleep.
Deasia says Kwame painted, cooked, and fixed everything around the house. And Xavier got good grades. He was funny and loved to play with her young children.
It's hard for me to explain to my kids, like, my brothers is gone. Like, they no longer here with us anymore.
She says Kwame would never have expected Eddie to hurt or kill him or anyone. She believes young Xavier tried to intervene.
It's going to be hard to come in bringing my kids knowing that they're not here anymore.
About 30 minutes after the shooting, police received another report. This time, the call came from Brooklyn Center, a nearby city north of Minneapolis. Someone reported that a man with a gun was in a business parking lot near the 5600 block area of Brooklyn Boulevard. Officers responded to the location. When police arrived, they identified the armed man was Eddie. He was still carrying the handgun, but then something changed again. As officers approached him, gunfire started. Eddie fired his weapon toward the officers and struck a marked police vehicle. The shots hit the squad car as officers took cover and responded to the threat, and that's when the situation escalated. Officers returned fire. Eddie ran a short distance across the parking lot while the exchange of gunfire continued. Within moments, he collapsed. Officers moved toward him and secured the weapon. They began giving medical aid immediately while paramedics were called to the scene. Emergency responders transported Eddie to a nearby hospital, but the injuries were severe. At the hospital, doctors attempted treatment, but Eddie Darren Duncan died from the gunshot wounds he received during the exchange with police.
Learning why a man was allowed to leave jail just hours before police say he shot and killed 2 people. A judge ordered a mental health evaluation for Eddie Duncan. But as Uba Ali explains, without a violent criminal history, they had no way to hold him.
2 separate crimes, one man believed to be at the center of both. Court records show Eddie Duncan was released on bail Monday on charges of fleeing police and being in possession of a gun modified with an auto-sear switch. Hours later, investigators say he killed his cousins in North Minneapolis. Before coming to this retail hub in Brooklyn Center, where investigators say that suspected shooter got into a shootout with police and later died.
Go!
Videos posted on Duncan's social media accounts show him dancing with a gun and makes some strange statements.
Because look at me, I'm God. I'm not dumb. I'm God, bro.
It's like you wonder, was there a trigger? But we don't know.
Dr. Andrea Lovett is a licensed psychologist who has worked as a court examiner but is not connected to this case. Lovett says a pending evaluation does not automatically require someone be held in jail.
The court might consider would be, does the individual have a lengthy history of violence?
Court records show Duncan was previously convicted of 2 petty misdemeanors for a traffic and drug offense. Still, when investigators requested a warrant for his arrest, they say he possesses a threat to public safety. And the Hennepin County Attorney's Office says they noted Duncan was a public safety risk and asked for a high bail, much higher than a typical request, but Duncan paid that. And a spokesperson described what happened next as a terrible tragedy for this family and our community.
None of the officers involved in the incident were injured. And as officers worked the scene in Brooklyn Center, investigators continued processing the house in North Minneapolis where the earlier shooting had taken place. News of the incident began spreading through the city. Local television stations reported that 2 cousins had been shot and killed in North Minneapolis.
Tonight, a Minneapolis community mourning the loss of a 14-year-old boy tragically shot and killed inside a home along with a 23-year-old man. Thanks for joining us here at 5 and streaming on KARE 11 Plus. I'm Chris Arabsky.
And I'm Lauren Lemanchek. The man police believe shot the victims is 23-year-old Eddie Duncan. And today we learned he was released from jail just hours before that shooting.
That shooting happened about 3:30 yesterday afternoon along Irving Avenue North in the Camden neighborhood. The suspect ran from the scene and was then found near the IHOP in Brooklyn Center waving a gun. He was then shot and killed by police. Gordon Severson leading us off tonight with how the victims are being remembered tonight. Gordon.
Yeah, in the neighborhood last night, I saw several neighbors and community members in tears when they heard a 23-year-old man and a 14-year-old boy were shot and killed. Many of the parents are now preparing to tell their kids about what happened because they say this 14-year-old boy was very close with a lot of the younger kids in the neighborhood.
This whole neighborhood we're like a family.
When there isn't snow on the ground, the 4200 block of Irving Avenue is usually filled with kids playing in the street.
You'll see them out here playing football, basketball.
Dozie Melvin says many of these kids play on his youth sports team, the Bando Wolves, including 14-year-old Xavier, who Melvin says was shot and killed alongside his 23-year-old cousin Monday afternoon.
It was heartbreaking.
Melvin says Xavier was a lineman on his football team who loved to play with the younger kids in the neighborhood.
When he comes out here and he plays with the kid, he's running and he's smiling. You can see his braces and it's like, who's that guy? You know, the smile made you feel like he had something in his heart that he can give to everybody. It was just too early for him.
Court records and sources have identified the shooter as 23-year-old Eddie Duncan. Police say he's the cousin of the two victims, and he allegedly killed them just hours after he was released from jail Monday afternoon.
There was also a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9, and 10-year-old children inside the house at the time with their grandma.
Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara says early evidence suggests that the shooter may have believed that his cousins were somehow involved in him being arrested. But O'Hara says they don't have any evidence to show that they were. Melvin and other neighbors say they don't know anything about the shooting itself or why it happened, but they're praying for the family and offering their support.
Keep them in your prayers, you guys. This family's going through a lot.
Minutes after the shooting in Minneapolis, Brooklyn Center police say that the shooter was spotted in their community waving his gun around. Officials say he was shot and killed by responding officers, and the BCA is now investigating.
And that the suspect in the case had later been involved in a police shooting in Brooklyn Center. The victims were soon identified as 14-year-old Xavier Barnett and 23-year-old Aquame Stewart. Family members began speaking publicly about the loss. Relatives described both cousins as brothers who grew up together and spent much of their lives around the same extended family. Their sister spoke about the shock of losing both of them on the same day. She described them as people who were always present in the family's life and said the house where the shooting happened had always been a place where relatives gathered. Soon after, the family created a GoFundMe page to help cover funeral costs for the two cousins. The page described Xavier as a young teenager who had his whole life ahead of him and described Aquame as someone who stayed close to his family and cared about the people around him. The fundraiser began circulating across social media as relatives and community members shared the link to help support the family. But the conversation around the case did not stop there. People also began talking about Eddie's behavior in the days before the shooting. Many of the posts he made online were still visible, including the messages where he said he had not slept for several days, and the videos where he spoke rapidly about people around him. Some relatives said they believed Eddie had been struggling mentally during that period. They pointed to his Facebook posts, his statements about people mocking him, and the videos where he spoke about being God as signs that something was wrong. Others spoke about the moment he'd been released from jail earlier that same day. Records showed he had posted $35,000 bail and was released from the Hennepin County Jail just hours before arriving at the Irving Avenue house, and that detail became part of the wider conversation about the case. Family members questioned why he had been able to leave jail so quickly and why the bail had been paid even though many people had seen the posts he made online in the days before his arrest. The case also raised deeper questions about mental health. Eddie had previously been diagnosed with schizophrenia, a condition that can affect how someone understands reality and processes fear or suspicion. In the days before the shooting, his social media posts showed signs that something was seriously wrong. For some people following the case, it became an example of how dangerous things can become when severe mental health conditions are not properly treated, monitored, or addressed in time. But for the relatives of Xavier Barnett and Aquame Stewart, the focus remained on the two lives lost inside the house that afternoon. Funeral plans were arranged as family members gathered to remember them. Pictures of the two cousins began appearing on social media as relatives shared memories and messages about them. Friends and extended family posted about growing up together, spending time in the neighborhood, and the moments they shared before that day. At the same time, the family was also grieving the loss of Eddie Darren Duncan, their cousin, whose life ended later that day during the confrontation with police. What began as one afternoon of violence left the same family mourning 3 relatives in a single day.
Now, all new at 10, and a development to the major breaking news that we brought to you last week. The family of the 2 brothers murdered murdered by their cousin held a vigil for them tonight. They were so young, 23 years old and 14. Ben Henry was there and spoke to them about how they want their loved ones to be remembered. He spoke to family, Ben. That must be tough.
It was tough, and it was clear from the showing tonight that this young man and teen were cared for deeply. Many of the teens' classmates even showed up. Their family wants to make sure the boys are remembered for the good, not for what happened to them that ended their lives too early. Candles, pictures, and balloons replaced the crime scene tape that surrounded this home just a week before.
My prayer has no more power than your prayer.
With family and friends filling the yard,
Put your hand on somebody's shoulder.
community honored the life of a teen and young man.
Me just being traumatized and so shocked, like it doesn't seem real, like it hurts. It's gonna be a long journey.
Deasia Freeman's younger brothers, 23-year-old Kwame Shaquille Davron Stewart and 14-year-old Xavier Vincent Marquise Barnett, were shot and killed.
Xavier was next. He was on the road to graduate. He used to just always come and tell us about the good grades, like, oh, how much you giving me now, Asia? I got A's, I got B's. Like, I'm gonna miss all that. Kwame, I'm gonna miss him making his music, coming in, him talking about him what he cooking.
The family is still trying to make sense of what happened. The brother's cousin shot them just hours after bailing out of jail on a weapon and fleeing charges. He too was killed in a shooting with police shortly after the murders. Loved ones making sure their brothers were remembered for who they were, not what happened.
It hurts that my baby don't know that he pointed every picture like Buddha. Buddha, like he knew that was his favorite uncle.
Lord.
While faith leaders work to bring and keep community together.
Right now, we're so disconnected that we are the answer to our own problems. And that's what we got to start saying to ourselves, that we got the power to do this.
And while investigators continued working both scenes, the family was left trying to process how quickly everything had happened inside the home on Irving Avenue North. What do you think about it? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.